Okay, so in this video we're gonna add shooting mechanics to the enemy characters. Just really quickly though, um, some people would have noticed that when the character spots you and touches you, he can touch you without damaging you. I envision the sort of swinging animation going on here, but if you want him to instantly hurt you, just jump into the blueprint. Just on the begin overlap, before we start the timer, if you type in damage the hero and just call the event and then play it, it instantly hurts you and then the timer starts. So just if you wanted to tweak that. I don't want that. I would think there's be like a swinging animation there. So there's a bit of setup for this one. It's a bit more of an involved one where we jump into a few different blueprints. The first things we're going to do is we're going to jump into our enemy character class, and we're going to create some variables for us to use later. They are a class type of enemy projectile. To be able to create that, you're also going to have to create the projectile. So let's do that first. So starting from the parent projectile, just duplicate this and call it BP. I don't know, enemy projectile. I'm going to call it projectile 1 because I've already got one, but you can call it just projectile or whatever makes sense to you. When you go in there, you can jump in here and we can just go into the viewport to just like change it from being exactly the same as the player's bullets. You could change the material that's on there. You could duplicate this out and just quickly change these colors a bit. I don't know, something else. Go. So now we've got that. We can just do laser matte 1. There we go. So now we've got that in there. We've got a different projectile saved. So you can go back into your enemy character and create a new variable, and you just go on here, BP, and then enemy projectile 1 class reference, and then and I'm just going to delete that now because I've already got it, and then another one which is of type float. You just do again new variable and drop this down and float and call it shots per second, and then the other thing that we just need to do is just click these eyeballs, and what this is going to do for us later is be able to say how fire rate for the enemy and what type of bullet it shoots. So that's the setup in there. The other thing that we need to do is just go to class defaults and type in tags, and you can add in a tag and just say enemy in there, and then that should be it. It's just so that we can make it so that the projectiles don't hurt ourselves. This tag is hurt the enemy doesn't kill itself with its own projectiles. You need if you have a child enemy as well, you'll have to do the same for them. Just go into there and go into their tags, and I've already got that in there. So actor tags enemy. Okay, so we're gonna make it so that I've already got this set up, so this is what we'll get in a little while. The enemy can't see us. When it does hear us or spot us, it starts shooting their homing projectiles, and if we get too far away, he'll walk closer to us to continue shooting at us, and should try to find us. And there we go, just like that. So the first thing we want to do, now we've got our projectile made, we'll want to go into it. So if we go into the event graph, we probably want to give the ability for these projectiles to home in onto the player, just in case, just to give them a bit more accuracy, but you can tweak how homing these are through changing a few variables as well. So if we type in homing, turn that on, and then we'll just give it a default value of about 750. So this is like its magnetism to the player. Now that's done, we can just start typing event begin play, and we will just cast to the hero, get player character, put that in here. We're going to get the root component. So the root is just the base of the character. We're also going to grab projectile movement variable, and we're going to set the homing target component with that. So we're just telling the thing that you want to, like we've told it to be a homing projectile in the projectile movement. But we haven't, this just lets it know what it actually is homing going on. And once that's saved, so that's our enemy projectile. I can see I've spelt it wrong there, but don't worry about it. Other than that, we just also wanted to do this actor has tag, and if we type in enemy here now, that's what we did before. So with our projectiles, the player's projectiles, they had the actor has tag, and if it's not true, then you can damage it, and that's so we can't shoot ourselves. This helps you so the enemies can't shoot each other. Now you could use these tag systems to create, maybe there is a type of enemy that can hurt other enemies as well. Maybe so you could have different sort of teams in there. You could have team 1, team 2, you know, or different factions, whatever you wanted to do. Just giving the actors the tags with this sort of logic of, if it doesn't have it, then you can hurt it. And that's all the setup for the projectile. So now we can see that work on this enemy now, and you'll be able to change that over here on the individual enemies or in their blueprints themselves. So if you were to go into here, and you'd be able to drop down and change in here. It'll always have to be children of that class that you made, unless you set up the blueprint differently. But now you've got that, you could easily keep creating children of this and changing some variables like the speed or the damage that they do, and giving different enemies different types of projectiles then in this list. So that's just how that'd work. So the next thing we have to do is create the logic to actually shoot. And to do that, we're going to create a new AI controller, and I've created one here. And that's how we've got this one shooting. So if I duplicate this, and we'll call it shooting enemies AI, or something that makes sense to you, maybe, and you could have lots of these. And I go into that. This is now just a complete duplicate of the following enemy AI. But so I'll show you how we can change that. Let me just open up this one and do that. Yeah. So the first thing that we're going to need is to set up one variable here, and we're just going to call this fire rate, or yeah, well, we're going to be using that. It's just going to be a float that is, yeah, really it's 1 second. Okay. So we've got this event here, and that starts the follow player. We're just going to carry on from this one, and we are going to do our cast to hero, and we're going to get the player character. So again, that gets the player character who's player in player index 0, which, because this is a single player game. And we're going to promote that to a variable, and we're just going to call it a hero. And then we're also going to just drag that follow player straight into here, and we're going to get these two, Control X, Control V, just to move them over here. And we're also going to promote this to a variable. We're going to call this one controlled pawn. So what we're doing is just making it so we can have a tidier graph later. And we'll get a little error here, and now we can just drag controlled pawn into here instead of having that cast down here. It's just done once here. So we can move this up, and when we compile, that fixes. Okay. We can get rid of this print string that we made in the earlier tutorial. We don't need that anymore. And we just want a new custom event. Now I'm going to call this face the player. And let's see if I can type properly. And on success, we are going to call face the player. And success is going to be a little bit easier. So 500 is now the acceptance radius. This is how close the enemy needs to get to us for AI move 2 to have succeeded. If I change this to 100, he'd get within 1 meter of us before he starts to try to face the player. I still haven't managed to type that correctly, have I? There we go. So in this, what I'm going to do is set actor rotation. Actor. Hang on. Let's try dragging out the controlled enemy. And set actor rotation. There we go. So that's how we get that event, and we're going to plug that into there. And now how we're going to get that rotation is we're going to use something called find look at rotation. We're going to get the controlled pawn again, and we're going to get the hero, and we're going to say get actor location. We're going to duplicate that with control and W and plug that into there, and this does some maths to find the rotation value to set the actor rotation. So if I go back into our enemy here, enemy child, and I go down into the type in AI here, get the AI controller class, and I'll do shooting enemies AI in here. Now this is what he does now. Should follow us, and then if yeah, there we go. So he's trying to rotate. Now let's give him a larger acceptance radius on there, because that doesn't look very much different, does it? Let's try 500. Let's do 250 so it's still on the screen. And now if we do so, now he's saying he's close enough to us, but every second he tries to rotate towards us. Every time that follow player happens. But there's that sort of snapping thing that's going on here. What we're going to do now is we're going to create another custom event called close gate. And I've just thought, actually, I'd rather do this first. Let's get him to shoot. So we'll use this in a little bit. What we're going to do first now is spawn actor from class. Carrying on from here. We're going to get the controlled pawn. And we're going to get the transform. And we're going to just pick enemy projectile 1. I haven't spelled that right either. That should actually just do it. Let's see. So when he gets close enough to us, and then he'll shoot us. And there we go. So if that's all you want, then you finish the tutorial, but now we're just going to carry on building on this and giving it a bit more functionality. So in here, we've hard-coded what this AI controller has. This is what we created the variable earlier. What we're going to do is from the controlled pawn is, let's see, what was it called? Projectile. Yeah, projectile type. There we go. And put it into there. So now when we set it in the AI, it's inheriting from whichever shooting pawn, so we could have lots of them with different projectile types in it, and it will spawn their specific projectile. So that means you can place them in the world and change this here. 2 different types of projectiles. And then now he's still only doing it based off this timer that he follows us. And this is where the gate comes in. So we give ourselves a little bit of space here. And we're going to drag out 1 second. We're going to get controlled pawn again. And you could have dragged out loads of blue lines from this, so you could have just went like that. I've just been kept grabbing controlled pawn just for the sake of neatness, so we can move these closer to each other so it's easier to read. So we're also going to want an event tick. So event tick, what it does is just fires every frame of the game here. Event called every frame, so it's just continually trying to do something. Every single time a new image is drawn on screen, it tries to do this. We're going to do a delay on that, and we're going to get our 1 second, and we're going to divide it by, I've already got that. If we get our controlled pawn, and we're going to grab what's it called, fire rate or shots per second. That's it. Yeah, there we go. So now we get whatever we set that shots per second to be again in here. So shots per second is 5 in here. So I think if we go, yeah, you'll be able to see this soon. So the other thing that we need now is a gate. The gate's got lots of things going into it, but only one thing coming out. So we're going to get the exit going into that set actor rotation. We're going to have face the player, open the gate. We're going to have close the gate on close the gate, and then we're going to have the event tick with the delay entering the gate. So if this is at 5, 1 divided by 5 is 0.2, so the delay is 0.2. So 5 times a second, this event is going to fire. If the gate's closed, nothing will go through the exit. If the gate is open, then it will continue to do all of this. And the only thing that we want to do here is just on fail, we will close the gate. Now, there we go. So now he is following us, shooting at us, and continually checking if he's far enough away to get closer to us. If you go into an enemy projectile, you've got this little projectile stat, so you can change how much damage they do. So we can change that down to like -1. We can change the speed to 100, and then they'll be really slow. The other thing that you can do is click projectile movement. So don't change the initial speed in here. You just change the speed there. I've got it set up for you. Then it's just in homing. You can turn off the homing here, and you can change how much magnetism is there. You can also go into all of these and just have a play around with these. I might do a dedicated video on it, but how to, if you change this max speed, and then you'll want this to have a max speed when you're using homing, otherwise your projectiles will do really funky things. And then give it like an initial speed, and then you'll get projectiles that act a bit more like homing projectiles like this. That's this one that's set up like that. So if you wanted a projectile that acted exactly like that, an initial speed of 100, 500, ticking rotation follows velocity, and then is homing projectile 750. That should do, yeah. That should be the lot for the video. If there's anything I've missed that my guys are doing, just let me know in a comment. Other than that, thanks for watching.